I was told the first thing I should do is check to see if you can hear me in the back. I'm a professor from New York. I'm not used to not being heard. Loud and obnoxious, not a problem for me. I also am absolutely thrilled to be here, and I really want to thank the conference organizers for putting me between you and the rush hour, and after one of the 100 most powerful women in Canada. It is important as a speaker, and I know that it's a long day, so your brains are going, and I promise I will have no facts, I will have no concepts, I'll have nothing interesting. Just cruise out for the next 45 minutes and go with it. It's important as a speaker that I connect both to the audience and I connect to current events. I will not attempt a Canadian accent. We can say dollar all we want. Look, the dollar, got it, all right? But I'm not doing that. Instead, I'm going to tell a joke. A librarian, a politician, and a nun are trapped at the bottom of a collapsed mine. Audience, current events? Yeah. After the initial shock of the cave-in, they all decide in the complete blackness to venture out and explore the rest of the shaft for potential salvation and an exit. They tie themselves together and go groping through the shaft. A little ways down, they bump into something clearly metallic and smooth and not boulder-like. And so they all gather around and begin to feel to determine what it is. The politician says, clearly a piece of malfunctioning mining equipment, and when I get back to the top, I'm going to have hearings and find out who's responsible for it. The nun says, no, 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 this is clearly a gift from God. This is a magical door that if we open it, we will be free. Librarian, what do you think it is? The librarian said, well, let me see. We have a group of people with no leader groping through the dark, feeling for something and hope, and either looking for someone to blame or a miracle. It feels a lot like a library committee to me. So I think, no facts, no stats. There you go. So I think this is part of the question that we're here to deal with. And I would just like to say that I hate this question. This question sucks. Pardon me. It sucks for many reasons, and I'm going to get into it in detail. I will also say that it's a good thing, I should admit now, maybe something I should have admitted to the conference organizers beforehand, I am not a futurist. I don't give a damn about the future. I really don't. I'm much more worried in what we should be doing today. And I really, rather than trying to predict the future, I'm much more interested in inventing the future. So my favorite quote comes from a fellow by the name of Alan Kay, who says that the best way to predict the future is to invent it. And I believe that. I believe that one message that we need to get across is that we don't need a committee feeling through the dark. We don't need an innovation pro temp. We don't need to have a 12-year-long process to look at the possibilities, to come up with a task force, to divide an option that will then go through a series of conversations. We just need to get down to making our life better. All right, so that's a little bit of what we're going to talk about. So let me get back to why I hate this question. So this is actually a question that I was asked to answer at one point. The MacArthur Foundation came and said, Dave, go answer this. And I said, okay, give me money, okay. I called it my not that MacArthur Foundation grant, MacArthur grant. But it's hilarious because I noticed that the other thing that I'm scared to death of you folks is that I've been following the LibFoo Twitter tag. You guys are harsh. I mean, when someone got up and talked about the Age of Enlightenment and someone said, I'm putting out a preemptive strike on the Middle Ages as being important, I'm like, oh my God, he doesn't even... So anyway, they asked me to go, and so I do it, I call up a library director and say, yeah, what's the future of library? I call up the library director. And the first reason you realize this is a horrible question is because everyone wants to redefine it. Well, what do you mean? Future of this library, future of all libraries. And finally you just say, yeah, answer the question. So I call up an academic librarian director and I'd say, what is the future of libraries? And their answer would be, well, I can't tell you the future of public libraries because they're screwed. But in the academic libraries, it's a social space that is all about learning and knowledge. And I call up a public library director and, well, I can't tell you about academic libraries because they're screwed. But we're going to be about a social space that's all about learning and knowledge. And you're just like, can you please just take a moment? Right? So I'm not going to talk about the future of public and the future of academic and the future of school, the future of special and the future of law. I mean, if there's any profession that's better at subdividing ourselves into little itty bitty pieces, it's probably serial killers trying to hide a body. I mean, in academia, we are used to this model, right? The model is take pond, divide until biggest fish in it you are, right? So the reason I don't like this is, first of all, it assumes that there is a future. The other reason that if you look at how this question is phrased very much as that it is determinate, that there is a future. And all we have to do is uncover it, which I guess if you wait long enough, that will happen. But when I ask this question and I look at it, what if you find that answer by looking at statistics, at looking at data, at looking at all this information, and you find that the future of libraries is none? If you find that the future of libraries is boarding them up and shuttering them. If you find that the future of libraries is killing the funding and deprofessionalizing folks and manning them as if they were Walmarts, right? Is that something that you would be happy with? Is that something that you would sit around and go, well, if that's the future, I guess I'll go start working at Walmart? A much more interesting way of saying this is, what should be the future of libraries? Right? It's something that we can act upon. And as we're going to talk about a lot today, this notion that we are in some ways someone else is going to come in and shape us. I mean, no. We want to look at how we can shape that future. Now, the next part I hate about this question, and you're going to, I can see the tweet already. Dave's splitting hairs. What is that? I hate the notion that all we talk about is libraries. You're sitting going, you do realize it's a library conference right here? How many libraries are here today? Let's look around. I don't see any Ivy. There's no coffee shop in the corner or rapid reader response, and there are no students falling asleep on the third floor. We're librarians, right? The building is nothing. The building is there for us, right? So when this is the advantage of being the last speaker, is I can pick on every other previous speaker. So when I see things like iTunes up there, and I see things like Facebook, those are libraries. No, they're not. They're piles of crap. I mean, yours are beautiful, but my musical taste, not good, right? Stuff does not a library make. What do you call a room full of books? It's a closet. What do you call an empty room with a librarian? A library. If you give them an Ethernet connection, sure, in 10 days they'll have ordered lots of books, but the point is, it's that process that makes a library. It's how we function. It's what's in our head that makes us librarians. They named the building after us, right? I know that's a little historical. But if he's allowed to pick on the number 0, I'm allowed to recreate the whole naming of this. Because let's face it, we're named after Liber, right? Which is Latin. I failed Latin, right? First it killed the Romans, then me, right? And it means tree bark, because that's what they would write on. So technically you're all forest rangers if you're librarians, but all right. So what should the future, so it really should be, what should be the future of libraries and librarians? Because I can very much see a future where there are more of us and fewer of those buildings. In fact, you've probably had some of those strategic discussions. Given the economy, and I'd be lovely to hear that you totally missed the bullet because we screwed up the economy, you're welcome. It's like, why are healthcare complaints down in Canada? Because we've been watching the Americans screw it up so bad, we're not complaining anymore. So what should the future of libraries and librarians be? But that's one future. You've probably talked about it. How much does it cost to heat this building, keep the doors open, secure this building, worry about the maintenance, take care of the asbestos every so often? Right? But let's close that down and move the librarians where they matter, which may not be another library, by the way. So the last one is in a democracy. And this one floors me, that we often forget the nobility of our profession. That as librarians, we tend to look at ourselves too harshly. We tend to undersell ourselves to such an extreme that it infuriates me. that we look at librarianship, somehow we say, oh, we're not clerks. Well, what do you do? Well, I do a lot of clerk stuff. Right? And somehow we've given up the notion that democracy is our ultimate goal. In fact, when we're doing this, we looked at the data and you look at the literature, and what I ask for your conversations tomorrow is do not let technology overwhelm your commitment to democracy. What I mean by that, I mean our previous speaker, right? That security and innovation don't always go together. Sometimes technology gets in our way, right? I'm a technologist, I'm a gadget freak, I've got the iPhone, I've got the iPad, it's so cool, right? But there's a time to put it down. And we can't forget why we're doing them. That technology, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, fabulous tools, but tools, just like an index, an encyclopedia. I am not a Luddite. What I'm trying to say is we are tool users and builders. And technology goes all the way back to the wheel, right? And mark. And controlled vocabularies, and once again from the Twitter feed, alphabetizing words is a technology, right? Why are we doing this? I think that there is no more noble aspiration than democracy, than the notion of giving a community and a civilization a voice in its own future. Whatever we do, we can't cloud it from that. When we talk about our values and our ethics and our morals and all these things, we need to see what is that rudder that's keeping us going straight. But that's another talk. Now, where did I would love to say I came up with this wonderful title, but actually I stole it from Mel. This is a Melville Dewey quote. The librarian must be a librarian militant before he can be a librarian triumphant. I try and model myself on Melville Dewey. I've lost my hair for him. Ruined my eyes. And, you know, he's an upstate professor who's into libraries. I sort of skipped the anti-Semitic misogynist part, but other than that, Dewey 2.0, right here. And I don't necessarily know the context, but what I love the phrase. And the phrase is, you know, stop the insanity. Stop underselling your role in this future. If there's one message that I can give you, stop underselling your ability to shape the future that you want. And I will tell you that to shape that future, you must be more than nice. You must be more than beloved. You must be a militant. You must actively acquire power. Now, it's interesting when I say this. Now, I teach in an information school, so we have folks who come in the telecommunications industry, information management, financial services, we call them the devil. They come in, and we have librarians. And it's funny because when I get up and I give a speech about information is power, like half the room goes, yeah, another half the room goes, well, I don't. Canvas bags. Anyway, 3 people got that joke. All right. So, a great book, if you haven't had a chance to read it, but you're all much more literate than we are in the States, so I'm sure you've read it 300 times and have it highlighted. But there is a fellow, a radical in the actually 30s and 40s and through the 70s named Saul Alinsky, wrote a great book called The Rules for Radicals. Now, I don't care if you're a communist, a progressive, a socialist. I mean, hell, you could be a capitalist, which would be hilarious because you'd look like a socialist to me. But he wrote this great book, and he uses this word power. And the idea is that he would have people come and talk about organizing and becoming a community organizer. And they'd ask, why do you want to be a community organizer? Well, I'd want to get food for the poor, and I'm going to house. He goes, no, you want power. You want power. And they go, yeah, you want power. To Saul Alinsky, the sin was not in having power or accumulating power. It was of depriving other people of power. If you look, and as a librarian, you say that part of your role is to empower someone, to give power to, where is the reserve that you're pulling from? Where's that goodwill that you can bring to it? So we should not shy away from this notion of power. So Alinsky's words. Why not use other words? Why not talk about empowerment? Why not talk about these other ideas? Words that mean the same but are peaceful and do not result in such negative emotional reactions. As we use purifying synonyms, we dissolve the bitterness, the anguish, the hate and love, the agony and triumph attached to these words, leaving an aseptic imitation of life. Power can be abused. Power can be misused. Power is also the thing that allows us to do what we want. Authority is a form of power. Respect and credibility is a form of power. As librarians, we have a very detailed, well thought through set of principles and codes of conduct and ethics on how we don't abuse that power. So if you want to look at successful use of power, look at librarians. Imagine the kinds of questions people give us when they come for their reference questions. Right? You've all been there. Right? You've been in front of the reference desk and you're getting this question, and in the back of your mind you're going, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. Right? Where's the hand wipe? How close are they? Can I leave my body? But that's an amazing amount of power, right? I'm going to tell your wife, whatever it is. That is power. That people that come up to us, think about just the reference interview. Think about that for a moment. What we're asking people to do is to come out in public to someone that they do not know in front of a big desk and admit that they are ignorant. Try doing that anywhere else. And what's better is we're worried we give them our name, right? We don't want to, you wouldn't do it to use car salesman without knowing their name, but you're going to go to a librarian and tell them about your herpes. And, all right. Now, the reason I think about this power and the reason we can't abuse it is we need to think about power. We need to think of what we're doing with it. Now, at this point, so I've got a book coming out in March, but I'm going to give you the scoop. The big scoop of that book is that I hate the read posters. I hate these damn things. I hate them, I hate them, I hate them. All right, the one with Yoda's kind of cool, but I hate most of them. Now, if you look at the notion of literacy, one of the questions that I was dealing with is I said, is literacy a core skill? If you look at a core mission, if you look at librarianship, as librarianship, is literacy core to what we do? Now, if you define, as many of the other speakers have, literacy is the notion of reading and writing, sometimes with arithmetic thrown in, not so much, right? Where are my academic library peeps? Right? You hope they can read, right? They can't write, we all know that, but you'd hope they can at least read, right? Any corporate librarians? Law librarians, medical librarians? Good, well, a few, right? You hope they can read too, right? Doctors, not so much, you hope they can write prescriptions. That's me. But my point of this is, if you look at literacy as reading writing, it's not a core skill for librarianship. It's something nice that we do. But if you take a look at literacy and you say that literacy is the ability to not only translate messages in a given medium, but also make sense of and mastery of identifying and utilizing patterns in those messages. Right? So in essence, there's this great flow going on around you. Can you understand and find patterns and make sense of them? Patterns like you put these letters together, they have this phonetic sound. You put these words together, they have a sentence. Right? Reading. Or you put these numerals and the symbol in between, you get mathematics. Right? But what about media literacy? You see a guy talking and they're a politician, they're lying. Right? You have these ideas that we understand it. It's on the internet. It must be true. No. Right? This is the notion of literacy I want you to think about. Because if this is your notion of literacy, and I think this is a powerful one, comes from Paul G., comes from this transliteracy group, comes from a lot of folks, then the notion that literacy is in fact a core skill for every librarian out there. What we're trying to do is not only be the people identifying these patterns, helping people find that information, but we're trying to enable and teach our members how to do it. By the way, I will not use the word patron because we don't pay them to paint, or rather I guess receive money from them to paint. I don't think they're customers, I don't think they're consumers, and God knows they're not users. Right? Computer scientists, drug dealers have users. We do not. Right? They're members. If you ask them, and we do this all the time, you go and ask the people in your library, what should we call you? They look at you and go, member, I got a card. I pay taxes. It's a sense of ownership. Why don't we give them that? They're members, right? So literacy is the ability to help our members work in this crazy world, this dynamic, bizarre world. If you look at it this way, then literacy is the core skill. If you look at it the other way, the reason I hate the read posters, it's like, I hate it for two reasons. One, it's not something an essential librarian, and you can kind of read without a librarian sitting behind your shoulder. There have been people known to do it, You can get a book, not in a library. Crazy thought, right? So it's not really essentially us. The other one is I hate this concept of the love of reading. I don't love reading. I love what I read, right? But you know, it's like the economists don't have Britney Spears on a poster talking about math is cool, you know, right? We need Yoda, right? They get up and like, look at my paycheck. That's all you need to see, right? And what do? Love reading, right? We need to read. We need to write. We need to do this stuff. That's essentially what we are as librarians, is we're connecting conversations. And as we talked about in our futurists, whether that's in writing, whether that's through our ears, whether that's experiential, whether that's one-to-one, whether that's mediated, that's librarianship. Working in that huge flow of human discourse to help people figure out how to make sense in the patterns within it. In that case, I want to replace the read posters with the question posters, right? Question power at your library. Question society at your library. Question authority. What we should be doing as librarians within our communities, empowering them to ask questions, to seek out new answers. We don't pacify our communities with reading. We don't give them these safe books so that they won't ask any other questions. That's not in our DNA. And yet, if you look at what Carnegie, we were having this discussion at dinner, one of the things Carnegie said is, fill the libraries full of these books, right? We can look at literacy, whether it's reading, whether it's media consumption, whether it's consuming, whether it's buying. We can look at it as a pacifying activity. Gaming in libraries, people think, oh, why do we game in libraries? The Victorians were gaming in libraries. They used to put in billiards parlors in London. Why? So they could keep the people out of the less respectable pubs, right? They dragged them in, and the idea was to keep moral authority. They were suppressing the idea of questioning. We look at literacy as empowering, to give power to reading. Why do we want people to be media literate and computer literate? Why do we offer these instruction? It is not to pacify them, it is to empower them. And therefore, we must be militant about it. To be a library militant is one who says that I have a point of view. When I look at our community, I am going to actively shape it. I am going to work with that community. I'm going to fight for civil rights. I'm going to fight for democratic participation. A good friend of mine was the director of a education library at Harvard. And the students came up to him to complain at one point. He goes, you know, your hours are really too short. We really would like longer hours. And he said, I'm sorry, I can't. I just don't have the money, I don't have the staff. And they're like, okay. And he sort of goes, but you know, you could just like not leave. I said, what do you mean? You could just sort of refuse to go. And it turns out he was a 60s radical. And so what he was doing is he was teaching them how to do civil disobedience. He was teaching them how to do sit-ins, right? That's what librarians do. I mean, what's amazing about librarians is we put ourselves on the line to create communities that scare the hell out of us, right? That's a good thing. This leads to this other part that I want to get rid of before I get into the triumphant part, which is that service does not mean invisibility. Some people will look at all that militant talk and that radical thought and Alinsky and oh my God and whatever, and no. It's all about what they want. It's all about what the members want. It's all about what the community tells me we want. At Ann Arbor District Library, they got a great comment card. What can the library do better? Response, more pie and prostitutes. We have a cafe. No, this isn't Vancouver. All right. That was a lame attempt at a nationalist joke. I'm so sorry. All right. But we don't do that, right? We have a vision of what it means to be an informed citizen, of how it means to participate. We have unstated and stated beliefs. For example, we have an unstated belief that the best decisions people can make is in the presence of the most information. We have an unstated belief that the best information is one that goes through some sort of authority process. So I saw one of the tweets. Now, this is like the slowest Twitter feed ever, right? You post it, and like an hour later, I respond to it. But, right, does this mean that authority is dead? Authority is not dead. Authority is very much alive. What has happened is that authority has shifted, as it will over time, back and forth. That authority has shifted from where we rest it. Authority has moved from an authoritarian model to a reliability model. It has moved in that I believe you because you have this title, you have this position, you're in this place, to I can go check whether you believe it or not. Has anyone here ever looked at the Doppler radar for weather to see if it's going to rain? Right? You're holding a party. You see, are you meteorologists? Are you crazy? And you're like, I can see that it's coming this way, right? So somebody, I have a party, a guy shows up, he's like, I don't want to break it to you. 10 minutes, rain. I'm like, what are you? Right? What that means is I don't have to believe you anymore. What that means is I go from place to place to place to look at it, and if I find something consistent. I like cooking. Any new recipe, I try to find the same recipe in 5 different places. Right? You're going to make chicken marsala. Okay, they all have chicken. Okay, they all do this way. And I sort of make it up from there. I'm looking to verify my facts. And what do we see? And by the way, not to counter earlier talkers again, I don't buy the notion that by somehow when you turn 40, you like lose the ability to be innovative and crazy. I don't buy the notion that the younger generation is more technologically literate than I. I think they can text faster than we can. I think you sit them in front of a computer program and say, make this work, and they're going to look at you and go, oh my God, right? It's what you pay attention to. We have to constantly look at this in LIS education because you'll see students slip into this too often. Oh, the old librarians do this and the old librarians do that. And we say, wait a minute, what's an old librarian? Me, right? Well, you know, they're entrenched, they're whatever. And then I go like introduce them to directors who do crazy crap. And I say, some of the most innovative, crazy librarians are people who direct libraries, who've been in library profession for 20 years. They just forgot to stop learning, right? It's not a product of age, it's a product of responsibility, it's a product of time. Of course kids spend more time in technology. They have more time, right? I have a 10-year-old. It's like, what are you doing, right? All summer, I'm bored, I'm bored, I'm bored. I'm like, get a job! But I digress. I really have no idea where I was. But what I'm trying to make a point to you here is that you have a say in shaping your community. You also have a responsibility for leading that community. When someone comes to you and you see that they're doing something wrong, don't you have a responsibility to step in and help right that? Don't you have a responsibility for looking beyond what's just when they come to you? For example, we all care about privacy. We love privacy. Privacy is important. So when they come to our online catalogs, we ensure people's privacy, right? We work hard to ensure their privacy, right? Except that the internet service provider they use to get to us can record every keystroke, every screen, every decision. How have you secured their privacy? You've actually created a false sense of security in your members. Do you show them how to use the Tor network? Do you show them how to use an anonymous proxy? Do you tell them what HTTPS is? It's so important to us that we take away the choice and the opportunity to teach our members about privacy because we're so busy protecting it. This is why, for example, when we looked at credibility and you look in K-12 schools, we said this is a horrible place to teach kids about good and bad information. First of all, there is no such thing as good and bad information. Right? Librarians don't know good and bad information. I say this. You do not know what good information is and bad information is. We don't teach that to you. You're not credentialed that way. Now, I say this, and every so often someone will, they're on the Twitter feed right now. I certainly do. You know what good and bad information is for a given question. Reporter comes in, wants to look at hate groups using the internet to recruit new students. Go to the Ku Klux Klan website. Best resource you can. 8th grader looking for after-school activity. Not such a good resource. Right? Good and bad is based on the question and the context that we're in and what we're trying to learn. That's your job. Right? You're in the knowledge business. I heard this over and over again. I can't amplify it enough. You're not in the thing business. You're not in the book museum business. You're not in the gardening business. And while you may think you're in the bathroom directory business, have you looked in Google and can I replace that toner cartridge business? You're in the knowledge business. Knowledge is change. When something new to you changes your look on the world. To gain knowledge is to change how you see the world. Right? It could be that much. Britney Spears was born on this day. Good to know. It can be that much. This is my new career. It can be all of these things, but what we do is we change people's worldview. Now, how do we expect people to come to us to help them change their worldview if they see us as conservative, slow-moving, and unwilling to change? Right? Favorite joke? Well, one of them. Change is like heaven. Everyone thinks it's a good idea. No one wants to go first. Right? But we're in the change business. So if you're a librarian, your reaction to yet a new technology, yet a new tool, yet a new idea, yet a new circulation policy should be bring it on. Not, oh my God. Right? What I want you to think about is every librarian that I've ever met that's worth their salt has the story. You all in you somewhere have the story. The story is that event, that moment, that episode in your life that as a librarian, you positively change someone else's world. Now that story can be very small. I helped this kid find the perfect book. He came back the next day and he just could not stop talking about it. He glowed. That story could be huge. I had a woman coming to me in an abusive situation and I was able to get her out of there and save her life. That story can be inspiring. That story is that thing we hold on to. That story is where we as librarians made a difference. And that story never, ever, ever starts with stuff. I saw them pulling the book I had shelved just 10 minutes ago. I mean, catalogers don't walk out at the end of the day going, I got cookery into a description of a mark record. Bam! It doesn't happen. It's always about people. It's always about conversations. Always about connection. It's about people working with people, learning, changing lives. We are about service, yes, but we are not about being invisible, transparent, and God knows we are not neutral. The same root of neutral is neutered. I don't think we want to go there. You have a bias. If someone asks you a question at the reference desk and your first reaction is start doing this or start doing this, you've shown a bias. The fact that you have a certain look, the fact that you have a certain accent, everything shows a bias. As librarians, we are trained not to somehow dismiss them, but to acknowledge them. And where we can, suspend them. As human beings, we operate in a world of understandings and predispositions. As librarians, we work hard with our communities to discover what theirs are and then make an impact. Now, how does being a library militant, this perspective of going in and shaping communities and shaping our own future, turn into Library Triumphant? I worked a lot on that slide. Let me do it again. Dun, dun, dun. Thank you, Mel. All right. What does it mean to be a library triumphant? All right, so we get it. We're supposed to change the world. We're supposed to make it different. We're supposed to shape our own futures, right? We're supposed to go in tomorrow and not ask ourselves questions like, well, why not? No, sorry. We are supposed to ask those questions. Here's the question you're not allowed to ask tomorrow. Why? Why? Why do we want to do this? Why not? Okay. Right? It's if we can answer this question. What should the future of libraries and librarians in a democracy? What should that be? Now, I have an answer to that, of course. And my answer comes from our mission. So I want to share with you the mission that I believe that librarians have. The mission of a librarian is to improve society through facilitating knowledge creation in their communities. I want you to notice a few things about this mission. First of all, it is the mission of librarians. It is your mission. It is not the mission of some abstracted, crazy org chart. It is not the mission of a building. A building cannot have a mission. A building can have relative gravity which pulls it to the ground. It is your mission. How many people have gone in at some point and done the website sucks discussion? Oh, the library's website sucks, right? Well, whose fault is that? Well, the library website fairy, right? If you sat there during the meeting and said nothing when they decided that red type on a blue background was okay, it's your fault. If you sat there and said, you know, YouTube is great, maybe we could put 50 YouTube things on this page, it is your fault, right? It is the librarians that make things happen, right? The second thing I want you to notice about this is that it's a two-part mission. The second part, facilitating knowledge creation in their communities, means that ultimately our success is in the success of our members in those communities, right? But the first part is an ethical counterbalance to the second. Our mission is to improve society. Feel free to stop the mission statement there. And some people, oh, that's a little grand, don't you think? No, I don't. Now, I can only speak from the United States perspective, which, as we all know, is the only perspective. No. Too rich a vein. Leave it alone. When the 9/11 attacks happened in the United States, the very next day they began debating something called the Patriot Act. Very next day. And it was mostly drafted before they showed up. And the Patriot Act, if you don't know what it is, was the idea that now federal law enforcement could request information without court approval. In essence, the FBI could show up and say, we would like to know every book that you are looking at. Because you look seedy. Right. Right? And what's better is, if they come and ask, you're not allowed to tell anyone. Librarians were there the next day lobbying against it. They failed. So what happened? A group of librarians in Connecticut went and sued the federal government and got parts of it overturned. Risked going to jail. That's what librarianship is. Librarianship is the constant irritation when the government says we're going to close down this information, we can't afford it, and librarians say we will take that information because it's essential to a democracy. That is librarianship. Librarianship is when we talk about this book cannot be allowed, it is too dangerous, for us to say a book can never be dangerous. Only the restriction of ideas is dangerous. That's librarianship. That is the tradition of which you are a part. Now, we operate in a world of scarcity. And that may seem really funny, right? Information scarcity, I don't think so. Scarcity, we've always been in the scarcity business. Our 3,000, give or take a couple of years history has been about scarcity. Now that scarcity used to be of external information. How do we get the stuff out there? The scarcity is now internal attention. There's plenty of stuff out there, we just can't handle it. Human beings can average about 300 words per minute in reading. Guess how much that's changed in the past 30,000 years? That's the limitation that we're dealing with now. Now, we learn through conversation, another talk. But it comes through the idea that when we seek to learn, we have a dialogue. That dialogue can be between two people, it can be between two organizations, or it can be within ourselves. When you're reading a book, you're not having a conversation with the book. I hate to break it to you. The book is dead. Those trees will never grow again. Take a moment. Wait, hip, cool technology. That e-ink screen will never grow again. Right? You're not having a conversation with the author. If you want to know why Hamlet was so screwed up, Bill Shakespeare's not waiting to tell you. There's not much of him left. So who are you having a conversation with? Yourself. Right? If you just literally sat in your head and said, what is he talking about? Who were you talking to? If you woke up this morning and said, does this thing make me look fat? Who were you talking to? Right? Ourselves. Now, once again, reference joke here. We wish they wouldn't do it in front of the reference desk, but we talk to ourselves all the time. Right? But here's the trick with conversation. Here's the trick with learning. All of this requires attention. You must attend to what's happening. So I want to give you a quick example. Right now in this room, there's literally an infinite number of things that can be taking your attention. If you have an iPad in front of you, even more. Well, no. Sorry. Steve Jobs won't let you get to that stuff. But you're sitting here and there's lots of things to draw your attention. It is only by facilitating, trying to grab your attention, once again, as an American professor is likely to do, look at me, right? that we do this. Now, I'll show you this rather trivial example. Everyone know the phrase photobombing? Yes, some. Photobombing is when you take a picture and the subject of the picture turns out to be not quite what you thought when you were taking the picture. I'll show you an example. So this is a picture of a guy who just deer. Attention's important. Oh, here's another good one. This is another attempt to be vaguely Canadian. My absolute favorite. Take a minute and look at what he's sitting against. It's a baby backpack. The best thing is they blurred out his face because like you're going to look at that and go, oh, I'm getting him, right? Attention is important, right? What's he paying attention to? It's not the kid he's squishing, it's the cell phone in his front of his hand. Right? We've all heard about the doctors that are talking about, text-based accidents. Right? Attention matters. Now, libraries have always been in the attention business. I'm not claiming this is a new mission, right? Architecture. We have used architecture for millennia to gather attention. Come in here and enter into a learning mode. Come in here and be impressed. Come in here and be inspired. And some of us, for many of our public libraries, come in here and be safe. Come in here and get away from danger. Intellectual danger, physical danger. Exhibitions. We put up exhibitions. Look at our special collections. We paid a lot. Please look at them again. Pathfinders and web guides are ways of saying, yes, this is a really complex issue. Here's where to start. Eisenberg and Head did a series of studies on information literacy. I'm sorry, there's a fact, but I didn't mean to do it. On information literacy of undergraduates. Number one resource used by undergraduates in research term papers. Wikipedia. They called it the resource that shall not be named. Because what happened was they all used it, but none of them cited it because they all start there and go to lots of other places. Now, for those of my Wikipedia folks like this, number one resource pushed to users as part of International Virtual Reference Cooperative we'll call Question Point is Wikipedia, right? Wikipedia has its uses. There's not good information and bad information. We want people to attend to facets of it. Verify, look, all this other. Librarians are seen as credible agents not because we are authoritarian, this is the right, but because we are authoritative. Here's how to find the right answer. Very different perspective, right? Because all of these things, collections are ways of gathering the attention. We do not buy everything. We buy what we can afford, but we also, within that, buy very specific things for academic departments or a certain part of the population or whatever it is. We're getting their attention. We're saying these are the things we think it's important to do. Cataloging is a way of getting someone's attention, helping them trip over the information when they go to the catalog. And might as well just fall on a keyboard for as well as they do with searching it. But we'll get there later. Another talk. Right? Now my point of all of these things is this is librarian militancy in a good way. Right? We have always known that as librarians we shape someone's experience. We shape the information environment. We combine conversations. We pull this collection. This is not new to us. This can go over the top and become bibliofundamentalism. Karen Snyder's term, I have to give credit where credit's due. Bibliofundamentalism, right? Which is, this is the folks who say, if it's on, everything on the internet's free and that's what it's worth. Only thing that should go into the library are things that are published and peer-reviewed. We all know them. Bibliofundamentalists are the ones, when you say Wikipedia, automatically go, So I was on Wikipedia the other day. I'm sorry, do you have a tick? Right? Bibliofundamentalists, they're out there. We know it, right? They're the people who, instead of simply calling things instruction, call it bibliographic instruction. Like BI is a word that's going to sit in people's heads in a positive way. Because BI, BO, I don't know, anyway. Right? So the point is that as librarians, we need to think about how do we get people's attention. I want to give you sort of 4 major ways in which we facilitate knowledge through attention. Access. Give you some examples. These 3 examples are from my favorite librarian ever, Meg Bacchus, who's at the North Onondaga Public Library. You should steal her away. And she has a dog, and she barcoded it, and she calls it bark coding, and she loans it out. She loans out her dog for 20 minutes at a time. Now you sit there and go, oh, that's not a book. No, it's not a book. And no, that's the other thing I saw on the Twitter feed, right? We're not just books. No, we're not just books. We're blogs, right? Gardens. They have a community garden. You can check out a plot of land for a season. Grow your own tomatoes. They decided not to barcode the tomatoes because they didn't want them returned. Hiking trails. They were on 30 acres of undeveloped land. In fact, it was going to be developed, but the developer was in jail. But he said, if you can get me a backhoe, we'll clear hiking trails. And so when people are looking in the catalog and they're looking for exercise, it can basically say, turn around and walk, right? This is how we facilitate access. Yes, it might be to a conversation, maybe to a book, maybe to media, maybe to friends, maybe to an online resource, maybe to Twitter, maybe to a dog, maybe to a garden, maybe a trail. It's a way of access. Because if you don't have a dog, and I do have a dog, you don't know what owning a dog is until you have a dog. And it's 3 in the morning. And they've eaten the wrong thing. And they're on your back. I could keep going with this. Right? But there's something that you can't learn about, dogs for dummies. Don't feed prunes, put in bed, and wake up at 2 in the morning, right? Not the same, trust me, right? Gardening. I love the podcast. Tulips are great. Throw them in the ground. Walk away. Unless you have deer, right? Why is it that deers love tulips before they've grown? I don't know, right? Hiking trails, right? How to get fit. Step 1, stop reading. Step 2, move, right? Knowledge, the idea that we can do knowledge, that we're at the point of knowledge. One of the things that we have to talk about with conversation is being where that conversation is. And oftentimes it's not at the building. So this was an example that I gave in a reference thing, which was, so I'm sitting in Italy, and that's my wife down there. I'm at the Trevi Fountain. I married up. And so we're sitting there, and I say, oh, I need to know what, she asked me, who's that guy in the middle? And I say, oh, I know, I'll pull out my iPad. Don't go there. In Italy, romantic Trevi Fountain, Dave iPad. Already had that conversation. Wasn't pleasant. Right? And I luckily had the iPad with a camera. And I take a picture of what's going on. Now, the great thing about your iPhone or your iPad or your Android device or pick it, whatever, is that it's got gyroscopes and a GPS in it. So it knows where I am. So it just says, oh, hi, you're at the Trevi Fountain. I have 4,300 conversations currently available. 20 of them relate specifically to tourism, because I know you're there on tourism. And I can see that, for example, I have available experts, whether they're in Rome or where they are around the world, but I know that they're in real time ready to answer my question. And if I want, I can pop into a chat discussion with them. I can also see, for example, in that chat discussion, I say, who's that guy in the middle? And with GPS, it knows where I am, so why not push this right there? In other words, this idea of reference pushing pages as some sort of revolutionary idea is crazy. We can now push locations. Here's where you are. This is what you're looking at. Here's what they've done, right? And at some point, you can see other questions that are going on at the same time. You can also know that I have a standing query for where good restaurants are, so it can say, go over here. Now, my point of this isn't, ooh, let's go build it, though frankly, we should. That's another talk. But the idea here is that we are where the conversations are. We can embed our knowledge right there. We don't have to wait for people to disconnect from what they're doing to come to us. We can be there, right? At Toronto Public Library, I was listening to some librarians. They opened virtual reference desks. They were absolutely astounded that most of their reference questions were coming from the computers right in front of the reference desk. Like they can't get up, right? Well, no, because right now that computer is more valuable than you are. But if you can be at that computer, you're twice as valuable as you are now. You're wandering through the stacks, and you have these location-aware and RFID and whatever, and you say, I need to find a book. Turn left. Go right. No, too far right. Stop. Smile. No. So the idea here is that we can facilitate attention where we are. The notion of environment. I talked about creating safe environments, physical environments, but sometimes the environments people need to learn aren't in your library. So we were working with the Free Library of Philadelphia, and they were starting an entrepreneurial space. And what they wanted to do was have people come to the library to meet briefly and then take them on field trips to successful startup companies. Is that librarianship? Absolutely. You're facilitating their conversation, you're helping them learn, you're helping them in the most productive environment you can, which isn't always the one that you build or control or pay for. Motivation. Academic librarians, you should force the administration to make you do the citation analysis for your faculty. You know who's going up for tenure. You know they have to do a citation analysis. You're going to wait for them to come to you? Why not, and then they lie, right? Why not go up and the first day say, hi, I'm Sally, I'll be your tenure librarian, I'm going to do your citation analysis for us, let's talk. Now here's the best part of this thing. They get tenure, you're the best human being in the face of the earth, right? They don't, they leave, and they can't badmouth you. There's a win-win here. All right, so I will give my little nod to the future here. So let's talk about how we can get attention in the future. But this will be a no jetpack discussion. Right, the future is all about jetpacks and people wearing Lycra, which is a bad future for me. It's like I actually wrote an article once called "Where's My Flying Car?" And someone took me aside once and said, Dave, I want to say a couple words to you. I said, yeah. They go, 16-year-old, uninsured, flying car. Got it, right? Don't want to go there. So this will be a no jetpack conversation. So what do I know about the future? I know that the future will be participatory. Knowledge and learning is within the member, not within us, not within our artifacts. No one learns because a book teaches them. They learn from themselves encountering that text, talking with themselves, talking with individuals. Our members are not customers. Why are they not customers? Because there is a reciprocal agreement. They are us. We are part of their community. As we become improved, they become improved. We need to make that case that if they cut libraries, they cut themselves. Right? It's distributed. It's in the library, sure, but it's also in the classroom. It's in Facebook. It's in World of Warcraft. Right? Someone said, why does everyone talk about Second Life when they talk about virtual worlds? World of Warcraft has a lot more people. Oh, I recognize your picture now. I haven't seen you clicking, though, so I'm okay? All right. It's true. My personal thing is Halo. I'm addicted to Halo. I have a 7-year-old and a 10-year-old, and I've gotten them addicted to Halo, which is great because it's a mature game. And my wife is thrilled. I think she was less thrilled. I think she was okay with us shooting each other. It's when I started teaching her about Arnold Schwarzenegger taglines. So that my son walks around and goes, Daddy, yes, I have an axe for you. You know, roses are red, violets are blue, you're dead. So we started playing before school. He's getting on the son's getting on the bus. My wife's sitting there going, don't do that when you're in school. They will not appreciate you talking about axes and killing people in school. Like, okay. But I have this idea at Halo that it would be one really cool thing to be like on the 3rd level and have a librarian join you and say, by the way, you should use the shrapnel grenade now. Right? Right? World of Warcraft. Here's an axe. You can borrow mine. I get it back. Right? And you go, oh, God, that's funny, but why not? I'm serious. We have book clubs. Why is it okay to sit there within a book club and talk about Jane Austen's Longing and not about my son killing you with a Class 2 gravity hammer? I really don't see the difference for those kids. They're both literacy. The best way to teach kids is not to, one, make a game for them, or as they say in the industry, that's chocolate-covered broccoli. You guys are not game designers. But give them games, and they learn to read, but they learn problem solving, they learn cooperative skills, they learn all of these things. Why shouldn't we look at that ways of doing literacy? We need to go to the conversation. The last thing I will tell you is that the future and how we get attention is complex, and it's messy, and it's intimately human. If we learn through conversation, if we learn through dialogue, it is a messy, nasty experience. I would love to just be able to, the old way of education that you are all buckets, empty buckets, and I'm throwing bricks of knowledge to hope to get into your buckets. And maybe, I can be a little entertaining to widen the bucket a little bit. That's crap. Can't happen. If you don't want to listen to me, as some of you don't, I can't talk louder to make you listen to me. I will simply annoy you, right? You must attend. You must decide what you're learning. And you're going to screw it up. And I'm going to screw it up. And one of the things that we have to understand in librarianship is we're moving to the future. We are going to fail. And that's going to be brilliant. We are going to have epic fails. We are going to screw up royally. And that's going to be a reason for celebration. What? Tell me that you put your hand back on the hot burner after you did it the first time. Failure means that you tried something new and you know one less thing to do. That is good. If everything is easy, you're not learning. If you are coasting through life, you are not a participant. If you are filling out your time card, you're not a librarian. If you are out there risking and failing, you are succeeding in investigation and new. Now, there are things that we want to do that we don't want to fail at. But the new stuff, fail a lot. And everyone who's administrator of a library, build a place to fail. Build a safe environment for people so they can stand up and say, I have a crazy idea. And celebrate that it's a crazy idea. Now, a few tips and then I will shut up. For the strategic planning process, we talked, first of all, talk members, not customers or users, please. Please frame it as the librarians of Alberta shall, as opposed to the libraries of Alberta shall. If you guys want to get respect, you better put yourself in your own promotional materials. If you take another video of your library with no one in it, you will be shot. If you put another picture of your building on your website with no people around it, you will be shot. Right? They're coming to the website so they don't have to come to the building. And if you show them empty, is that what you want to do? You are the most innovative and valuable thing in that library. The most innovative thing that ever came out of a library is a librarian. You are the primary assets of that institution. Sell yourself. Put it out there. State your worldview and make it about conversation and knowledge. So ultimately, what is the Triumphant Librarian? Well, first of all, the Triumphant Librarian is not the dead librarian. Amazon, Google, ebooks, vendors, publishers will not kill librarianship. What will kill librarianship is a lack of imagination. What will kill librarianship is that when librarians have an inability to see what could be and only see what is. To see how we are viewed but not understand that that's a platform for the greatness that we can become. I don't care if you're a liberal or a conservative or a radical or a reactionary. What I care about is that you see your efforts as crucial to shaping the future, not only of the library, but of the communities you work in. Librarianship is a conversation. It's a conversation that has been going on for 3,000 years. It's a conversation that has been handed down from generation to generation, society to society, culture to culture, epic to epic, and it's been handed to you. And it's not done. If we take that conversation and we freeze it, or we publish it, or we point to it and say, thou shalt not change, or we turn our practices into some sort of golden idols, we have killed this conversation and we have betrayed the past. Librarianship is a conversation about how we can make the world a better place. It is a conversation not only amongst ourselves, but with our communities. What do you need? What problems are you trying to solve? How can we help? That conversation is how we learn. It's how we grow. Librarians have existed for 3,000 years, not because we haven't changed, but because we have changed radically. The best testament that we can give to Dewey and Ranganathan and Alexandria is to tear down their edifice and tear down their ideas and start afresh, because that's what they did. Librarianship is a conversation about what it means to be a better society, a better community, an aspiration for a better day. Ultimately then, this is what it is to be a triumphant librarian. A triumphant librarian is when you wake up one day and you realize that today your community is better than it was yesterday. Better educated, better informed, happier, better prepared for change. And knowing that tomorrow you're going to work like hell to make that one even better. And the one after that, even better. And no collection and no book and no building makes that happen. You make that happen. Your communities make that happen. You are going to change the world tomorrow. You are going to change the world tomorrow. If you don't believe it, don't come. If you don't want to do it, don't come. If you want to change the world, if you want to be a librarian, you have an obligation to improve it. You are a profession not because you know how to catalog, but because you know how to improve. You are a profession, a vocation, not because you sit in buildings that have library around them, but because you have in your heart the desire to make a difference. You are librarians for a better society. We, as a society, have created libraries and librarianship because we aspire to be better. You are the promise, and you have to deliver the gift. Thank you very much.